Bhavish, thank you very much for coming for this session.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Although I feel a little overdressed after Sachin, but I thought it'll be a lot like formal, so I put up a jacket.
Oh, you're wearing the jacket.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to start out by giving a sense of what Ola has done over the last, 5 years they've been operating. And because you pick up a lot of things in the air, you see a lot of things in the newspaper, and you don't necessarily pull it all together and just have that moment of understanding or recognition about what Bhavish and Ola Cabs have accomplished. So I just want to read out certain things. This is all in public domain, just to get us all on the same page. So Ola's revenue has been growing at an average of 30% month on month. It is the fastest in its league. And at least 1,000 cars a day get added onto the platform every month pan-India. That is the kind of growth that they have accomplished. There is 2.5 lakh vehicles on the platform. In the period of January through October of 2014, they had a 9 times growth in bookings. The other thing is, within the market that Ola operates in, they have 85% of the market share. That is 60% of it is Ola, 15% of it from Taxi for Sure, which they acquired recently. Against what we talk about a lot as well is the Ubers, but Uber has 5% and Meru has 16% of the market share. The number of vehicles registered has grown on the Ola platform has grown 6 times in the last 10 months. And they also moved to a completely app-only model back in August, or in August. Yeah. It has completed the integration of the Taxi for Sure into the Ola platform, and of that, 20 of the cities in the 50 cities have been closed, but 30 of them remain, and they have been integrated into the Ola platform completely. Now, the other new developments have out into food delivery via the Ola app, and has started to showcase 1+2 in its taxi cabs via a demo instrument for customers to play on the Ola rides. Of course, all of that, and what also catches a lot of our attention, and we feel that this is a very aspirational thing, is the funding. So Ola has received about $676 million in funding in 6 rounds and 16 investors. The last round was $400 million back in April. So this is what they have accomplished in a very short period of time, one of the unicorns of India. So welcome.
That's very generous. When I started out, my dad thought I'm becoming a travel agent. So he's okay now, but he says, "Kit paisa kab banaoge?"
I know. So after the IIT Bombay, you went off, came to the same building that we operate out of, Microsoft Ventures, and then you're part of the Microsoft research group. For a couple of years you were there. Lots of people who saw you thought you were a very quiet guy and didn't know what to make of you.
Uh-huh.
And then suddenly, you had a couple of patents, and then you took off. Yeah. And started building your travel agency.
Yeah, my dad didn't speak to me for 6 months after that. Yeah. But no, I actually started off with a business slightly different from Ola Cabs. I started off with olatrip.com. After 2 years at Microsoft, I had a great time there. It's a wonderful place to work, especially the research place. Then I started off olatrip.com, and the idea there was, let's sell short duration weekend holidays online. And that was a time when the Commonwealth Games were happening. And I used to stand outside the games venue, distribute pamphlets, and I remember ek bhi trip nahi bika tha mujhse. So that was a very humbling experience, and I used to think I am from IIT Bombay, computer science, this, that, and then I realized business is very different. And while doing that, I realized people need transport more than they need, let's say, a vacation. So we pivoted to olacabs.com, built a website to book.
This was on your trip to Bandipur or something like that, right?
Yeah. So we built a website for booking outstation car rentals. and that was the very, very early 2011, Jan 2011. Yeah. And since then, I mean, as we kept executing more and more, we learned more about the huge opportunity in front of us. We learned more about how big a pain point mobility is in India. And today our mission is to build mobility for 1 billion Indians. And mobility means different things for different people. For you and me, it could mean a cab. For somebody else, for a student, it could mean an auto rickshaw. For somebody else, it could mean a bus ride. For somebody else, maybe it's a public transit, metro, whatever, right? So we want to be part of every trip that happens in India.
No, that's a very inspiring vision that you have. But I guess when you started out, it was more of a technology understanding that you brought to the problem. Whatever problem you understood out there was an understanding of the fact that people are looking for transportation, and then you had the ability to think about the problem and find a way to solve it through technology. So it was more of a technology domain expertise rather than a transportation domain expertise that actually got you going, right?
Exactly. The only thing I knew was how to code. So I didn't know anything about cars or about taxi business or about anything of this, right? But that's the advantage entrepreneurs of my generation have, right? Because each of these consumption verticals is being reimagined using technology. I mean, mobility doesn't mean owning a car anymore. I personally don't own a car. I don't believe I'll ever own a car. And car ownership in India is a measly 5% compared to 70% in the US. Other Western countries have been built over hundreds of years of different paradigms, and India can't be like that. I mean, our road infrastructure cannot support such a large car ownership base. So technology is going to completely change every consumption vertical. It's my very strong belief.
So how old are you?
For another
Are you
10
30
days,
or
I'm
under 30?
No, for another 10 days, I'm under 30.
So also in terms of the templates that are there are some templates out there in the US. There is the Uber, the Lyft, and so on and so forth. And they are all saying, okay, the intellectual argument is there is a whole lot of supply and there's also a whole lot of demand. There's no way to kind of bridge this, and there is this gig economy or the sharing economy. So did you have all these understanding before you embarked on this, or did you say, okay, thoda kar lete hain, baad mein dekhta kya hua?
I think for first time, very young, I started off when I was 24. For first time entrepreneurs at that age, you don't know the world of business. One small story there is, when I was raising an angel round, my first ever round, the angel investor says, draw me your org structure. And I had to Google what org structure means. So that's how naive I was when I started off business. But that's how naive all first time, young, early 20 entrepreneurs are. And when we started off, like I said, our vision was not to build this, change mobility in India. But as you learn more and more, as you go deeper, and if you understand technology and if you can leverage that, understand data, I think you can completely change paradigms of consumption.
So would you say there was some amount of naivete, some amount of serendipity along the way? I
think there was and there still is, right? There has to be. You need to have that curiosity always.
So you were talking about the vision of getting providing transportation for all the Indians, whatever the kind of transportation it may be. So what do you think in terms of technology itself? What are the new trends, new things that you feel that you can leverage to build out Ola as you go along?
See, if you think how people move today, it's a very decades old paradigm. Gaadi kharido, ya bus mein jao, ya auto ko hail karo. All of these things are going to change. Nobody knows how fast or how quickly or what exact form factor. I mean, cars will become much more smarter. Probably cars will become driverless. Buses will become smarter. Probably we won't even need driverless cars. Probably we'll have driverless buses. Who knows what this all will lead to. But technology is definitely going to. I believe transportation is the one big frontier where technology hasn't yet gone into, and it's going to be completely revolutionizing many aspects of transport. Some of the
so some of those are relevant to India, or is it just the fact that they are possibilities? But
all of them are relevant to India. I think some of these innovations will happen first in India and later in the Western world. Because in India, mobility is an even bigger problem.
We'll just get you a hand mic also, just in case. So as you know, the theme of this of the day is leapfrogging. So we are not looking at recreating and doing a little bit of catching up with what's happened already. There are lots of things that are happening today, which is allowing us to do frictionless transactions. Things that are not necessarily paper based, not necessarily cash based, not necessarily presence based, right? It's all paperless, cashless, presence-less. You are able to hail the taxi without any being there on the street and waving a hand out at the expense of losing the hand, right? So all those things are now beginning to happen rather easily. But I guess it's still the fact that the users, although they see that it's so easy, technology has made it so simple, the ability for them to get comfortable with this entire paradigm and also maybe pick up their smartphones, which is capable of doing all these things, or even first download it and then use it, is not a simple thing. To accomplish the kind of numbers that you've accomplished is obviously not that simple. So how do you think, you first of all accomplished it, and how do you think you will continue to grow at the pace that you have
I actually believe the consumers adapt faster than people like us feel. If you look at college students today, they want to buy the sexiest smartphone out there. They don't want to buy 10 years ago they wanted to buy a car or a bike or something like that. Now these days the craze is smartphones. And I believe the youth embraces change, embraces technology much faster than the older generation. But even smartphones per se have been so universally adopted now, especially for our business. Especially, it's the only thing we care about. We were only mobile first. We continue to be mobile first. Even my mother doesn't know how to send an SMS from the phone, but she can book an Ola. But it's fairly simple, right? You just need to press one button, and it's so much more convenience for utilitarian day-to-day needs that people adapt to it very quickly. So I feel smartphones are going to go even more deeper into many other areas of consumption. I mean, retail, it's happened, payments, it's happening, transport, it's happening. Many other domains will definitely get onto the smartphone.
So do you see the way you are implementing your business model differs, in the demographics of the tier 1 cities versus tier 2, tier 3? How do you, India is not that simple, to build for, right?
The essence of the service remains the same. It's about getting a means of transport in 5 minutes, but the means of transport might vary. For example, in a small town, let's say Siliguri, maybe an auto rickshaw is the right means of transport to scale. In a big town like Bangalore, maybe a sedan car, right? Or maybe even a bus. So it depends on where you are. The means might change, but people need to move. As more and more youth is coming into the working population in India, as we're becoming more and more upwardly mobile, mobility needs will only grow. They're not going to go away anytime soon.
So you're seeing the adoption rates pretty much the same. So when we talked about TFS, you closed some of these cities. Was it not because of the fact that the business was not as interesting there, or the adoption rates were not as high? So something is different, right?
With TFS, our focus is to build the most economical taxi service in the major cities, and TFS is in 50 cities. We integrate the bottom 20 into the Ola platform, and the remaining 30 TFS continues to run. It continues to be an independent brand, and that's how it will be. Actually, post the acquisition, it's grown more than 3 times.
But that had nothing to do with the user behavior. It was to do with the fact that it's more of business. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the people who actually are driving these cars for you and how you bring them into the fold. So at one point when you had these great incentives and you got several of these guys to come with their cars and be part of the system, and then slowly over time you've also kind of slowly changed the incentive structures and so on and so forth. So how has that worked out for you? How do you see you are able to create the sharing economy around Ola?
So we already have 2.5 lakh drivers on our platform, and all of our drivers love the fact that this platform has opened up such a new source of income for them, which they never even thought of. And we are getting drivers from, just yesterday I was in an Ola, and the driver says, man, he was an AquaGuard technician, and he had left that job because he's making more money on Ola. And this is actually happening across the board. People are making a lot more money on our platform because mobility is such a big consumer need. And you might need to incentivize initially to get them on the platform so that they see value. But I think those days are gone now because the brand is so big. Their peers are doing it. Drivers are growing from driving a car to owning a small fleet. We actually enable them to do that through our partnership with financiers and bankers. And I think that's, in 2 to 3 years, I see more than 1 million drivers on our platform. And a lot of these people will come from places where they're not fully gainfully employed or partly employed, maybe waiters in restaurants or maybe security guards. There are a lot of people who can do more and who can earn more.
But then there's also other people who start getting dependent on you. They're seeing the kind of income that they have not seen before, right? And then the question is, okay, are you giving them that guarantee or surety that things will be stable, they can indeed rely on this? So this is one of the things that there's a lot of debate in the US about employee versus contractors. I mean, they should almost be considered employees because of the fact that they are depending on this for income. And
I think every Indian wants to be an entrepreneur. He's very happy being an entrepreneur. He's very happy growing his fleet. And our goal as a company is to provide him the tools and the services to grow his business. That's how we see ourselves.
So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is now you are sitting on so much, there's so many drivers, so many trips that you make every day, you understand the consumers and a lot of them have signed up. So you are sitting on a lot of, I think the phrase that was used was data exhaust, right? There's so much of that. So how are you beginning to use this data for yourself and potentially for partners as you go along?
Sure, I completely agree with the few, I think Sachin spoke about it, about data being a core thing of all these new businesses. Data is one of the key pillars of our business. The way I see our business, it's customers, drivers, and data. And data should be used for improving the customer experience, improving the bottom line, improving the driver experience. It can be used for everything. For example, imagine if you're in an Ola and you're going from home to office to home, and we can just pop up a thing in your app and saying, do you want to pick up a cafe coffee day coffee along your way? Because we know that you take this route every day. We know that there's a restaurant right next door. We know that you must be tired. There's so many sensors built into your smartphones. We know your geography. So we are going to leverage data a lot for personalization, for improving customer experience, building very relevant products for you. And you'll see a lot more on that coming soon.
So how do you balance running the business, making it more efficient, more cost effective and all that stuff versus all these innovative skills that your data and other things open up for you?
I think you have to see it from the same lens of how do you improve the customer experience. If you're using data, leveraging it to build a better consumer experience, it creates a better brand, which gets you more customers, which reduces your marketing expense, your bottom line improves. It's the same cycle, right? That's how I see it.
So are you focused on the bottom line at all?
Yes. Actually, many people don't know this, but a few of our cities are very profitable for us. A few of our older cities are very profitable for us.
So how does the unit economics work if it is to be profitable? So if you are incentivizing the drivers to come on and there's a lot of that going, how do you make a city profitable?
Things like incentives and all are tactical things which, during the life cycle of evolution of a city, they're in the early stage, not later on. And as we have gone along, we've built a lot more value-added services for our drivers. We help him with car loans, we help him with house loans, we help his wife with a job application. We've built a lot of community services and a lot of value-added service for him. So he wants to be on our platform, and that helps us keep the cost down.
So also in terms of making this data available and all those other services, you talked about the consumer experience being more richer and all that. So some of this, like the Ola Cafe, right? So that is something that you have introduced yourselves, but then the 1+2 is something that has come through a partnership. So how do you envision different elements coming together? How much of this would you do yourself? How much would you have some other people do, so that you don't need to worry about this is not your core competency and things like that?
Ola Cafe is a very exciting pilot for us. It's about how we can leverage this logistics framework we've built, this on-demand brand we've built, and the huge customer base we have to deliver a few other things on demand. It's a very exciting pilot. I eat Ola Cafe every other day. and we are excited to see how it shapes up. The 1+2 thing is more of an engagement marketing activity, which consumers love. The consumers love the fact that you can press a button and in 10 minutes you can try out the hottest new thing. And we'll continue to do a lot more of these things.
So what are the other things that you have planned?
Our core focus and our mission is change transportation and change mobility in India. So we'll be doing a lot more things soon in that direction.
Okay. So there are lots of people here, sitting at the cusp of so many different things that have actually come together, much more so than when you started out. There you just knew that there was potentially asymmetry in supply and demand, and you could do a lot there. But I think Nandan was saying this morning, there's a billion, the fact that there's very soon there will be a billion people on Aadhaar, a billion people with bank accounts, a billion people with smartphones. So this is a huge sets of tectonic shifts that have happened. And if somebody were to start a business today, what would be the advice you give the new entrepreneurs to take on?
I think now, more than 5 years ago, a lot of the infrastructural pieces are getting built. There's retail infrastructure online, there's transportation infrastructure online, there's payments infrastructure online. And this, I think, is going to set the stage for a lot of very exciting businesses to be built on top of these. And it's like standing on the shoulders of these businesses. And the 2 or 3 trends that I see coming together is smartphones is a huge trend. It's going to open up a lot of consumers in India who've never really been able to access services before. Lowering of data costs, with 4G coming in, with costs going to go down, that's also going to open up. I think capital is more easier available today than before. So to smart entrepreneurs.